Today I'm covering my top 10 pieces of Woman Love Woman content from 2024. I have to say I struggled to put this list together despite watching somewhere in the region of 80 sapphic films and TV shows this year, and I also have one show that was going to make it onto this list until it became the hot piece of garbage that I should have seen coming. I was totally taken in. I'll start out with an obvious choice. This was one of the biggest releases of the year and it got a huge buzz going. I am of course talking about Agatha All Along. It takes the antagonist Agatha from the wildly popular Marvel TV show WandaVision and gave her her own show. In WandaVision, we have left her powerless and defeated by the Scarlet Witch, who imprisoned her in a spell that had her believing she was nothing more than the archetypal nosy neighbor from an American sitcom. When a teenage boy releases her from the spell, she goes on a journey down the mythical witch's road to get her powers back, along with a coven of dispossessed witches who each have their own goals. While the witch's road tests them, Agatha also finds herself pursued by her ex-lover Rio, the Green Witch, which brings up one of Agatha's deepest wounds. I did a review, link in the title cards, and while I have my criticisms of the show, overall the Agatha and Rio dynamic was really rather delicious, with so much scope for the imagination, and I did get caught up in it. It's also just a very queer show with pretty much the entire cast identifying as some form of gay. Now I have to include Wicked Part 1 because although the relationship between the two protagonists, Elphaba and Glinda, stays in subtext, it's subtext in the way Xena and Gabrielle is in subtext, you know? It kind of smacks you in the face, and the movie didn't shy away from giving us some beautiful, poignant, emotional moments between the women that just screams the deep love they have for each other, and then it's up to you how gay you interpret that, and I did a review about how it's a fantastic allegory for a queer narrative and comp het. The stage musical, which is what the movie was based on, has long been beloved by the queer community, and our sapphics have been shipping Gelfie, as their ship name is called, since it premiered in 2003. Although I imagine the fans of the book it was based on were also shipping it because there are some sapphic moments that include kisses and sharing beds. The movie was overall so well done and drew out the themes well, and the chemistry between Elphaba and Glinda was so on point, and it feels like this is the biggest film of the year with the most hype, well-deserved hype I'd like to add, and for it to have such strong sapphic overtones delights me. With Agatha All Along from Marvel, one of the biggest film and TV franchises, and one of the most successful musicals to offer witchy sapphic-laden content is a delight. I also found myself diving headfirst into the Sue Keefe ship from the soap Eastenders this year, and I was very impressed with the storyline that had been going on for over 3 years. The show looks at the lives of residents of a square in the east part of London. In 2021, a story began that follows Suki, who finds herself falling for Eve, but between her own internalized homophobia and the release of her husband from jail after he killed in a possessive, jealous rage, it takes her a minute to work through everything. Meanwhile, this intense and passionate love affair arises between the women, but with the situation tearing them apart, there is much angst to be had, but, good angst. It means we get to see some delicious tension between the women with some insane chemistry that is oh so satisfying. They ultimately get together and for most of this year have been allowed to luxuriate in their love, which feels so rare. Of course, being a soap, the happily ever after can't last forever, so things did get a little bit complicated in the last quarter of the year, but it also means we get some screen time from them and their love for each other still burns strong. I have to say that the performance by Balvinder Sopal really impressed me and played beautifully off Heather Peace's Eve. I did a fanish review of the couple, link in the title cards, and I also have a link to a playlist of the series in the description. The movie Eva is not a recent release, but I did watch it this year and it was charming. It followed a young woman called Eva who is struggling with the death of her boyfriend. Deciding it's time to venture back into the dating, she agrees to go on a date, but the date goes sideways and distraught, she finds herself on the rooftop of a building. There she meets Emily, who, seeing her vulnerable state, invites her to stay the night at her place. They begin to hang out and a sweet relationship blossoms, although is Eva ready for something more? It's a sweet and simple story and the best kind of low-budget indie that has a kind of fly-on-the-wall cinema verite aesthetic that makes for a charming film with some lovely performances from the two women. It's a reminder that low budget doesn't have to mean low quality. I have a link for the movie in the description. Australia came out with a solid murder mystery series, High Country, this year that has a lesbian couple at its centre. Set in the Victorian High Country of Australia, Andrea Whitford is transferred to take over from the retiring sergeant with her wife and kid. She is thrown into an investigation of a number of missing people in the area while her wife finally begins to paint again, forcing her to revisit the tragedy that led to her stopping. With both women so busy, with the teenage daughter acting out, it puts a strain on their relationship that could spell the end of their marriage. And this is happening just as Andrea is about to discover something that will change her life forever. I did find the show at times failed to truly grip me despite some insanely beautiful cinematography and solid acting from the entire cast. I had hoped for the Aboriginal element to play more tangibly into the show, but the ending drew all the threads together in a way that felt satisfying and made the show better. So, even though this is not my fave of the list, I do recommend, especially if murder mystery, crime drama, and sapphic ladies are your thing. In the wake of Agatha All Along and the love affair I was having with the two actresses that play Agatha in Rio, Kathryn Hahn and Aubrey Plaza, I of course had to go looking for more of their gay content, and Mrs. Fletcher was a find. It follows Eve Fletcher, who with her son off to college finds herself with an empty nest. For the first time, she gets to explore who she is and what she wants, and when she winds up on a porn site, it ignites desires she didn't even know she had, namely for women and for a young man in the writing class that she starts. As she finds the courage to act on these desires, she is taken on a journey of awakening and to the realization that her life is not over. Her son Brendan is also on a journey as he navigates college, and it forces him to confront his unconscious privilege. The show is artfully told, and it was a delight to watch Eve go on her journey, played beautifully by Kathryn Hahn in an affecting performance. The show is also pretty queer in an unassuming kind of way, from Eve discovering her bisexuality to Amanda, a lesbian love interest, Margot, a trans woman who gets her own love subplot, and Brendan's gay roommate and his boyfriend. It is R18, so while I did a review of this series, I had to keep it to my Patreon because YouTube would simply not handle it. You'll find other exclusive videos, a video podcast where I recap and review every episode of the OG lesbian TV show Xena Warrior Princess in all its glory, and a database of closing in on 500 film and TV shows with sapphic characters in them that can be filtered on various criteria to surface content you may want to check out, with handy links to my reviews on them. I had heard about My Old Ass, which features Aubrey Plaza, and then also heard that it wasn't all that gay. I guess because Elliot is hooking up with a girl at the start of the film, but ends up falling for a guy. And I get the urge to see sapphic content where the major love story is between two ladies. I'm simple, and that's what I generally gravitate towards. But to dismiss this movie because the love story involves a guy is to miss out on a gem of a film. Elliot thinks she knows her sexuality, she's a lesbian, and she's been crushing on her dream girl forever. With her pending move to college weeks away, she finally gets the courage to make the move, but she realizes that what she thought she wanted isn't what she actually wants. When tripping on mushrooms, she meets the older version of herself, played by Aubrey Plaza, who warns her away from a guy named Chad for reasons she won't disclose. And this is the beginning of a journey to discover who she is and what is important to her. This is the second feature by writer, director, and actress Megan Park, who also made The Fallout, a film that made it to my top 10 in 2022, and here she brings another thoughtful and well-crafted film that flips the script on coming out. While Aubrey doesn't get a lot of screen time, she is delightful, as is the actress who plays her younger self, Maisie Stella. It's a sweet, uplifting, and queer coming-of-age film. Blue Jean is a film from 2022 that I got to watch this year, and it was a lovely find. It deals with Jean, a PE teacher and closeted sapphic in the late 1980s, who is navigating some deep shame around her sexuality during a period of UK history where Clause 28 is a major talking point for the country and looks to ban people from what they call promoting homosexuality. Afraid of losing her job, she keeps her personal life a secret from her work colleagues, but when a new queer student in her class sees her at a gay club, instead of reaching out a hand in solidarity, she is afraid, and it means she's not able to be there for her student to protect her from being bullied for being queer in school. This is a wonderful little film that looks at how keeping quiet perpetuates cycles of shame, and I definitely do recommend. Now, these last two are really special mentions because they made it onto my list from last year. However, with both releasing new seasons, they also numbered amongst my favourite content of the year, and given I didn't find anything else to replace them, they get the two final spots. Hacks came out with season 3 in the first half of the year. The series follows Ava in her mid-20s, who finds herself writing for the aging comic legend Deborah Vance. From this emerges an unexpected, codependent mentorship that tests both women. Ava is bisexual, and we can see her having liaisons with mostly women. Season 3 steps it up with that when she has a serious relationship with a woman, while also dishing up a definite tension between herself and Deborah. While thematically I doubt they're heading for them ever having anything romantic, their relationship is delicious to watch, and the writing is clever and funny. I definitely recommend. Doubleparked came out with its second season about a lesbian couple who has been trying for a family for some time. When both women fall pregnant at the same time, they must now navigate choppy waters to build their dream of a family, which causes tensions between the two. In season 1, things came to a head but was interrupted by the arrival of the children, and we pick up in season 2 with the ladies now having to deal with the challenges of newborns while also dealing with their relationship. Now, while this sounds dramatic, this is in fact a lovely uplifting comedy. It doesn't shy away from the issues it raises, but it does have a light touch. The second season was just as delightful as the first, with both women navigating being young parents and grappling with things that have been said and can't be taken back. Sweet, poignant, and funny, I recommend you give it a go. Also, a quick mention that Arcane, the steampunk adult animated series that I mentioned in a previous top 10, released its second season, but I haven't had the time to watch it yet. And it indeed went the gay way, as had been heavily teased in season 1. I've heard it's just as good as the first season, which is fantastic, so you may want to check that out too. Now, to the piece of content that I was intending to add to this list but haven't, it is Harper and Phil from the New Zealand soap Shortland Street, which has been an incredibly gay soap, but given how things have gone, I just can't. Not only did we lose Nicole, the long-standing bi character of 15 years, in the most appalling storyline that felt honestly quite disrespectful to such a legacy character, but then they go and kill Harper off, the other long-term bi character who had dated Nicole on arriving in Ferndale in 2014 and then recently had an affair with surgeon Phil this year. I'll make a final video going over the utter disappointment of the Harper and Phil ship, just to have closure on my multi-part series, but I was duped so hard and should have known better. The only redeeming element is that they still have 2 sapphic characters and a gay couple in the main cast, which is pretty unprecedented for a soap, but they also killed off 3 sapphic characters in the last year and a bit, and sent another off to jail, or maybe it's an insane asylum. Jesus, what was I thinking? So this show is not on the list. Let me know your top films and TV shows for the year. I need some good content to sink my teeth into, and until next time, lady lovers.